Hi everyone, I'm Caroline Pett. I'm an anti-anxiety specialist. Now this is the first time that I've spoken in front of this many people actually in the room. I did consider bringing you all little frames to hold around your face so that it looks more like you're on Zoom, but the cost was a bit prohibitive on that one. So as I said, I'm an anti-anxiety specialist. It is a unique title. I might be the only person doing it, so I'll tell you a little bit about what I do. If you've ever experienced anxiety before, you'll know that no one person's experience of anxiety is the same as the next. Nobody feels anxiety in the same way or about the same things. It's about as unique as we are. And that's why I work with an array of different modalities, and I have lots of different techniques and angles to come from. What will work well for one person won't necessarily help the next person at all. So it's all about being flexible. Anxiety isn't an off-the-box problem, so you can't have an off-the-shelf solution. It does require some work and some perseverance. First of all, I just want to enjoy a little bit of the irony of being an anti-anxiety specialist, but feeling extremely anxious about being up here talking to you all. And just so I know that I'm not on my own, I want you all just to take a little moment to imagine that it's you up here. Whatever you would be talking about, I want you to think and just see yourself being up here where I am. And just give me a show of hands if you imagine that you would feel a little bit anxious too. That's great. I mean, there's a few amongst us who would be really comfortable, but the rest of us appear to be normal and would feel a bit anxious. So for me at the moment, my stomach's churning, I'm actually shaking a little bit, my hands are clammy, so sorry for whoever has to hold this next to me. My stomach's going a little bit, there's adrenaline pumping around my body, my heart's really beating. And if I wasn't so familiar with what was going on, that could be really concerning. Some of the sensations that are going around my body could really make me panic. And it would make the situation a whole lot worse. And luckily that takes me on nicely, almost as if I planned it, into my first step of self-defense against anxiety. And that is know your enemy. So the sensations that we feel in our body when we feel anxious, things like the nervous tummies, the change in breathing and heart rate, the sweating, the shakes, the knees going, all of that kind of thing are caused when our autonomic nervous system switches into its sympathetic mode. You may have heard it being referred to as the fight or flight mode. When we perceive that we're in a situation that could be dangerous, our body prepares us to either keep us alive by either fighting or from running away. Now, I'm not much of a runner personally, but don't worry, I'm ready to take you on if you turn on me. And I've got some groupies in the crowd who will help me out as well. And you never know if you're sat next to one, so don't risk it. And notice that I say perceive that we're in a dangerous situation rather than are in a dangerous situation. The nervous system is triggered by thoughts and emotions, and it doesn't really know what the difference between something that is real and something that is imagined. The physical response is exactly the same. So when I asked you a minute ago to imagine yourself being up here, some of you will have felt your body reacting in some way and the nerves starting to kick in. Or if you'd allowed yourself to go deeper into that imagination, you may well have done. When we get better at recognising our body's response, we can begin to work with it. And that leads me to step 2 of self-defense against anxiety, neutralising your enemy. And I have a really quick activity that I want you to do. Now this involves breathing in a slightly different way, so if you do have any issues breathing, just don't take part. And if at any point you shouldn't do, it's very short, you feel like you're going to pass out, please start breathing again normally, because I do not want any drama. So, when we're in the midst of feeling really anxious, our breathing tends to become quick and shallow. So I want you to breathe like that just for about 30 seconds or so. So just take your breath, so it doesn't come any deeper than this. And it's just quick, shallow breathing, and see how that feels. you'll notice that because you've started to breathe in this way, that other anxious thoughts or feelings start creeping in. The mind does control the body, but the body can also control the mind. And now I'd like you to take slower, deeper breaths. And I'm actually going to talk you through a really quick technique called box breathing. And really, any breathing technique that slows your breathing down is helpful for dealing with anxiety. But this one's one of my favourite because it also includes counting, but no higher than 4. So what we're going to do, and I'll talk you through it and then I'll talk you through a couple of rounds. You breathe in for the count of 4, hold that breath for the count of 4, breathe out for 4, and then hold the out breath for 4. So let's breathe in, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4, and out, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4. And we go round again, so breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4. And because I'm a little bit OCD with these things, if I'm doing it myself, I like to do it 4 goes round. But really you can do that as many or as few times as you need to feel calmer in the moment. It can also be helpful to take back control of what you're doing physically when you feel anxious. So you often find that when you're feeling anxious, your body will go in a certain way. Maybe your legs starts jiggling up and down. Maybe your fists clench. And it can be completely different for different people. But note how you're holding your body and make a choice to do something differently. Often when we've been faced with something that's made us feel anxious, when there's a build-up of adrenaline in our body, it can make us feel really shaky. So it's just like when an animal's been through a scary event, it often shivers and shakes. And we do exactly the same. It's a great way of dissipating the stress hormones. So if you're feeling really anxious, just give your hands a really good shake. It dissipates the stress hormones, give your legs a really good shake. If you're on your own, singing, dancing, jumping up and down is really helpful. I'm not going to demonstrate any of those for you now. You will be pleased to hear. The only other thing that we have got any control over in our lives is our thoughts. Thoughts do tend to run away with us when we're feeling anxious. And they tend to run into a fictional future. So situations such as forgetting all your words, or forgetting how to talk entirely, or in a more personal level, things like you run into your partner's 5 minutes late from work and they're obviously dead in a ditch by the side of the road. Somebody's fallen down the stairs because they've not answered your call. So your thoughts run into a fictional future. And it tends to be situations that are unlikely to really happen. And the best thing that I've found to do in that situation is to bring my thoughts back to the present. What is happening right here, right now? And by focusing on my current reality, I'm unable to focus on a future that's likely to never come to pass. And there's loads of different ways to do that. But one way that I particularly like is what I call rainbow thinking. And I just look around me and name something of every colour of the rainbow that I can see. So there's a lady in a red top, there's a gentleman with an orange tie on. I suddenly can't even remember what the colours of the rainbow are, so I'm not going to do the whole thing. And if you do get a situation like that, pick a colour and look around you and find something of that colour. It's not about what you're finding, it's about being in the moment. And they're just a couple of techniques that can be used anytime, anywhere, and they don't attract any attention to yourself, apart from the shaking and singing and dancing that might. And I've got plenty more of little techniques like that. So if you want to know any more, just come and have a chat with me downstairs. Now, all of the techniques take practice, and it's not because they're particularly difficult, they're not. But your prefrontal cortex, that's the bit of your brain that does the logical thinking, goes offline when you're in fight or flight mode. You can't think logically. So it's best to practice them when you're feeling calm. so that you can more easily bring them to mind in the moment when you actually need to use them. And that brings us to the final stage of self-defense against anxiety, and that is love your enemy. Now, it might seem strange to suggest to you that you should love feeling anxious, but those sensations are our body's way of keeping us safe. It's our drive to survive coming out, and that really is a glorious thing. Once you're able to recognise and neutralise those feelings, you no longer need to fear them because you know what their true purpose is. After that, you can begin to work with the underlying causes, the thought patterns and the beliefs that are triggering the response. And there will be some that you can change and let go of because they're no longer relevant to you or no longer pose a threat. And that's really where I come in to work through these things with you. But getting yourself back in control makes all the difference. You can think more clearly, you'll sleep better, you'll be more productive and overall be more content and happier. As an individual, it's worth investing your time in putting in the work. And as a business, it's worth supporting your teams to do this work too. Now, it's not really the forum for a Q&A here, but I do have a stand downstairs. I'm on table 16. So do come and have a chat if you've got any questions. And you can also contact me anywhere you like. And if you're fancy and techie, that QR code will take you straight to my website. I'm well impressed with that. Matt Curtis taught me how to do that in the training that I did. But yes, I've been Caroline Pett, and any questions, do come and have a chat with me downstairs.